Goodbye YouTube. I want to give a quick thanks to everybody who left the nice supporting comments on my update video last night, and to those people who kept making a false accusation even though I already denied it. I don't really care for you guys because apparently you can't read. But yeah, thanks to everybody who left the nice comments. For those of you who did not watch the video, to sum it all up, basically life has become really busy. I'm starting college later this year. I'm getting a job, and then personal life, so I don't know if I'll be uploading as frequently as I used to, starting around like September or August. Hopefully though, over the summer I can still kind of upload, just probably not as much as I do now, just because I do have to get a job and all that stuff. But yeah, thank you for those of you who will still stick by me and my channel and support me. Anyways, I found this really old OU battle that I had against my boy Edgar, and because no one is home and I have some free time, I decided why not to do something productive and narrate this really good OU battle actually. And I know I'm using a stall team, but trust me, this battle is actually not stally at all really, at least if I remember correctly from the playback. But looking at threats on Edgar's side of the field, Terrakion was really the one thing I was going to be worried about, just because if it's sub Salak SD and I allowed to set up, I could get swept, or if it's Choice Bandit, it's going to be hitting extremely hard. So I just know I have to watch out for Terrakion. But I'm going to be leading off my Skarmy because I thought that he would actually lead off with the Hippowdon, but he actually ends up leading off with his Landorus. Now I thought that he led off with his Landorus just to be able to go for the U-turn, so expecting him to be a Sand Force variant and not the Sheer Force variant. I'm actually just going to stay in, not fearing the Focus Blast and get up a layer of spikes. But yeah, that assumption is really stupid on my part, because as you saw there, he is the Sheer Force set and gets off a huge amount of damage with the Focus Blast. So expecting him to go for a Hidden Power Ice, not wanting to risk a Focus Blast missing, I'm just going to make the safe switch into my Chansey. I was going to say Chandelure. That is a Chansey, not a Chandelure. But yeah, he does go for the HP Ice, and I'm just going to take this opportunity, knowing that he is going to want to switch out. I'm just going to go for the Stealth Rocks, and something in my mind was telling me to go for the Toxic, but I don't go for the Toxic as he brings in the Terrakion. So expect him to go for a close combat, and if he does want to go for a Stone Edge, I know my Tentacruel should be able to take the hit. But it turns out that he is sub SD and is going to go for the Swords Dance, and at this point I'm actually panicking a bit, because if he really wants to, he can potentially sub up to the point where he does get a Salac Berry and I could get potentially swept. But as you're about to see, he isn't sub Salac and he's actually a Rock Gem and is going to just destroy my Tentacruel. So I'm kind of not worried about this Terrakion as much, although now my Tentacruel, which was my #1 Keldeo check, is gone. That now means Keldeo has become a huge problem that I really have to watch out for. And I'm going to bring in my Terrakion. Thankfully Edgar doesn't want to risk a speed tie, or just thinks that I'm scarfed, and he's going to switch out into a Celebi. And after that damage, I'm pretty sure he does know now that I am banded. Unfortunately, my second close combat just barely fails to knock out the Celebi, as he's going to make the good play by going for the recover. And I know the following turn, even if I switch out and he does go for Baton Pass or U-turn, nothing can really safely switch into my Dragonite, and if he does bring in the Keldeo, I can always switch into my Chansey as he goes for the Icy Wind or Hidden Power Ice. But Edgar's just going to make the offensive play, which is a Psychic, expecting me to overpredict and stay in and go for another close combat, which is not the case, as now I'm free to basically go for a Dragon Tail, knowing that Edgar would be forced to switch out, because Celebi can honestly not do much to, especially defensive Dragonite, just because no Celebi tends to carry Toxic. As he does Baton Pass into the Hippowdon, I'm going to be able to get him out of there with the Dragon Tail. I unfortunately get a crit, but honestly the crit doesn't end up battering at all. I mean, you'll see like near the end of the battle. But I Dragon Tail him out into the one thing I didn't want to Dragon Tail him out, which is this giant ass threat known as Terrakion. So expecting him to go for a Stone Edge, I'm just going to switch into my Politoed. Thankfully he doesn't go for a Swords Dance, and I'm going to be able to live the Stone Edge at enough HP to the point where I know I will be able to take another one and take a potential close combat. So I'm just going to stay in and I'm going to go for the Protect, which in hindsight was really dumb, because what I wanted to do was get a little bit more of HP, but I honestly should have just gone straight for the Scald as he brings in the Hippowdon. I actually could have been able to easily 2-hit KO the Hippowdon, which is not going to be the case anymore, because I think, if I remember correctly from the calc, if he is special defensive, he can live a Scald. So I'm just going to make the safe switch into the Skarmory, expecting him to go for the Stealth Rocks. As he does go for them, this should be my perfect sorry about that. This should be my perfect opportunity to go for the Roost, knowing that I should be able to easily take a Earthquake, and I guess Edgar knows this, so he's going to switch out himself and he's going to bring in the Jirachi. Now I know some Jirachis do tend to carry the but the Fire Punch, and I don't see that he has leftovers, so I know he might be choiced more than likely, and expecting him to go for the Fire Punch. I'm going to switch into my Politoed, as he does make the good play and actually goes for the U-turn, knowing I wouldn't want to stay and risking him to have the Fire Punch. And at this point, my Politoed is really getting worn down, so I have to be careful how I play my Politoed, as he brings back in the Terrakion. At the amount of HP that I'm at after Protect, I can live a close combat, but I really don't want to go for the Protect and possibly have him go for the Swords Dance. So I know even at +2, at the amount of HP my Skarmory is at, I should be able to take a close combat. So I switch directly into that, and Edgar does just end up going straight for close combat, I guess knowing I would want to switch out, or just hopefully thinking I wouldn't go for the Protect. And expecting him to go for another close combat, I'm actually going to go for the Roost, but Edgar makes another good play, predicts me to Roost, and he's actually going to go for the Swords Dance. And this turn, I know that I will be able to live the close combat, and I really don't want to risk him possibly going for a second Swords Dance, so I'm going to go for the Brave Bird, except not really, because if I remember correctly, I actually end up misclicking on the Whirlwind, which means now I still have to worry about this damn Terrakion unless I'm able to get up another layer of spikes. So I Whirlwind him out into the Jirachi, and knowing that he doesn't have Fire Punch now because he didn't go for it earlier, I'm actually going to stay in, hoping that he does go for another U-turn, allowing me to go for the Roost. Edgar's going to be that guy and try to flinch my Skarmory to death. Thankfully though, on the second Iron Head, I'm able to not get flinched and get off the Roost, allowing me to take even more Iron Heads, and I'm just going to take this opportunity to go for a second layer of spikes to ensure that Terrakion will die off to the entry hazards. And Edgar does make a safe switch into his Landorus, knowing I wouldn't go for the Brave Bird. I know the Focus Blast is way too obvious, so I'm going to switch into my Dragonite. Then, expecting him to go for Hidden Power Ice, I'm going to switch into my Chansey, as he does do that, which means now I can go for a Toxic, a Seismic Toss, or even pull a Double Switch. And I believe I do just go for the Toxic, as I miss on the Terrakion, which means now I'm going to be forced to bring in my Skarmory to hopefully be able to live 2 close combats. And judging for how much damage that first close combat did, unless for some reason he gets like absolute minimum damage, I'm not going to be able to live it. And yeah, my Skarmory gets easily 2-hit killed, and now I'm forced to bring in my Terrakion to go for the quick attack to knock out his Terrakion, allowing him not to potentially get a free switch into his Keldeo, but he actually brings in the Jirachi, which means he's going to be able to U-turn out on whatever I am forced to bring in. But Edgar actually ends up going for the Zen Headbutt. I don't know why. He could have gone for the Iron Head, because now due to the fact that he actually missed, this allows me to hopefully be able to live the second Zen Headbutt, not get flinched, and go for the Roost. And that is exactly what happens, which means I'm still going to be able to keep my Dragonite around and annoy his team, and hopefully be able to maybe take a hit from the Keldeo once I am near multi-scale range, because I doubt that a Hidden Power Ice will be able to knock me out if I am up to multi-scale range. As I go for the Hurricane, because I thought that he would actually switch out. That was really dumb of me. I should have just gone straight for the Thunder Wave, which is what I'm actually going to try to do this turn, hoping that he doesn't flinch me or miss his Sand Head. But I'm going to stay in and go for the T-Wave. Unfortunately, he hits and I get flinched, and at this point my Dragonite is basically dead unless he misses, which of course does not happen because I already missed the first one, which hey, I'm not really too worried about it. So after he takes me out, I'm then going to bring in my Chansey, because I'm pretty positive I should be able to easily live 2 Zen Headbutts and maybe knock him out with a Seismic Toss, or at least get off a Soft Bowl, then knock him out. And I do manage to not get flinched, and I am going to go for the Soft Bowl, which means I can now live at least like 4 and still have a good chance to knock him out with the Seismic Toss, which is what I'm actually going to try to do. I'm just going to go straight for the Seismic Toss, as he actually ends up bringing in the Hippowdon. He just barely lives, although now I know that he might want to go for the Earthquake, and I'm pretty positive that my Politoed should be able to live the Earthquake, so I'm going to switch directly into that, which means I'm going to be able to win the Weather War. And this also means that Keldeo now has rain boosted Hydro Pumps, which I'm really going to have to watch out for. So I'm just going to stay in, and I'm just going to go for a Skull to knock out the Hippowdon, which is perfectly fine by me, because the positive side is that my team now will not be taking any residual damage from the Sandstorm, so that's kind of good. But he's gonna now get a free switch into this giant threat, which is the Keldeo. I have nothing to safely switch into this thing, so I'm just gonna leave in my Politoed as he knocks me out with the Secret Sword. And now I'm gonna bring in my Chansey, scouting out to see if he's scarfed or not, because at the amount of HP that I'm at, I'm pretty positive I could be able to live a scarfed Secret Sword. And as he knocks me out, this automatically tells me that he's either Spexed or possibly even Expert Belted, which means my Terrakion has to win a Speed Tie to knock him out. And Edgar knows this, so he's just going to switch out into his Jirachi. And at this point, Terrakion is my last Pokemon, and Terrakion can actually knock out his last remaining Pokemon with close combat. So my last chance to win right now is Terrakion, basically. So Jirachi dies off the hazards as he brings in the Celebi. I'm going to be able to clean knock that out with close combat because I think I got a higher damage roll on this one than I did earlier on in the battle. So I guess he thought he could live and take me out with the Giga Drain. That is not the case. And actually, his last chance to right now win the battle and not have it to come down to a speed tie is his Landorus, because I did calculate, and at the amount of HP Landorus is at, I do have a chance to knock him out. Unfortunately, I get a low damage roll, and he's able to live and in return knock me out with an Earth Power, and that's going to be Edgar's game 2-0. So yeah, in the end, minus all the dumb plays that I made, it was still actually a really fun battle from what I remember, because this was back from March, as I said, so I'm pretty sure I had a good time. And yeah, hopefully y'all all did enjoy this. Hopefully I can post soon again. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to some more content. I apologize if the narration was a bit like not normal like all my other ones, but yeah, I just have stuff on my mind and I'm just rambling, and this is already 11 minutes, which I highly doubt any of you even watch this. But yeah, later everybody.